Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I'm going to be going over a lot of different news today. There's going to be many videos that are going to be coming out. So, good morning, and make sure that you have your coffee because it's going to be a long day. All right. All right. Last night, Hezbollah shot a rocket, a 50-kilo rocket, at a soccer field. Did they target the soccer field? Most likely not. They probably were targeting something else. But there were children there and they were blown up. I'm not going to show the video of the actual children's body parts. You can see that on the internet, on X or whatever, but it's pretty gruesome. All right. Now, of course, there were body parts blown up in Gaza too by the Israelis. But the thing is that this will escalate the northern front between Hezbollah and Israel. This was happening in the Golan Heights area. Now, like I said before, this conflict is moving towards biblical borders. That means that the borders of Israel are going to get widened. And that means that parts of Lebanon, parts of Syria, parts of even Jordan and Egypt will be in this biblical border boundary after all these wars happen. I don't know if it will be a fast war, meaning it ends this year or next year with the new border boundaries. Most likely not. But this is going to grow. And that this means that the Palestinians in the West Bank are going to be kicked out or killed. But the thing is that there's going to be this border is going to get bigger, all right? So, and that also means Jerusalem. So it looks to me that the Palestinians in the West Bank will be moved into the Gaza Strip as part of this reconstruction plan. But the borders of Israel will get larger in the north and even in the east and in the south. Now people would say, how is that going to happen? Well, you keep on thinking in Westphalian modern construct of borders. The start the start point of where this is ending, right? Where do we need to go to understand how this is all going to unravel and end is actually the biblical border, because this is tied into the Temple Mount and tied into the Red Heifer and the Messianic era and all this stuff, right? So the borders that are in the Bible are what will happen for Israel. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to get to there like tomorrow or next year. This may be an evolutionary stepwise conflict over years that leads to a larger border system, or something fast happens, nuclear detonation or some sort of other unconventional means where this thing moves fast. It can move slow for this, or it can move fast. We don't know. But I'm taking the stance, I think rightly so, that the biblical borders is where the end game is for Israel's territory. Now, some of those borders are actually with our allied nations or peaceful nations with Israel, or somewhat peaceful nations, such as Jordan and Egypt. Others are not, like Lebanon, Syria. And I've been saying that it's about knocking out Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. Now, there's going to be some people that don't like what I'm saying, but I don't really care. I take the stance that what was written in the Bible about the boundaries of Israel will be, quote, resurrected, reestablished. What is interesting is that border system for it to be reestablished is taking from enemy nations and also allied nations. Now, how that all plays out, I'm not sure. A lot of people think that you're giving up land because of some sort of war situation. Maybe it has something to do with their economy that collapses, the border nations, their economy collapses, and it lends itself to selling the land. Who knows? Maybe there's some sort of unconventional means of war and it collapses the border nations political system, and it's easy pickings for getting the land. Who knows? It's not. It doesn't mean that it would be forcefully taken. But the thing is that the borders are going to revert back to the biblical boundaries. Now, that doesn't mean that there can't be a Palestinian territory or state. It's probably going to be Gaza. It's not going to be the West Bank, because the West Bank is part of the biblical boundary. It's not going to be east of the Jordan River, because that's part of the biblical boundary. It's not going to be the Golan Heights, because it's part of the biblical boundary. It's not going to be the southern part of Lebanon. That's part of the biblical boundary. Same thing with a little section of Syria. The Sinai Peninsula, that's part of the biblical boundary. So there's going to be a lot of conflict that's going on. So this is moving into the next stage. That next stage is the Northern Front. And that probably will bring in Iran, conflict between Israel and Iran. Now, when that happens, then we're talking about more involvement by the US military, especially maybe Space Force and the Air Force. Now, going into Lebanon and going into Syria is a lot harder. It's kind of like Israel's Vietnam, if you want to use analogies, compared to going into Gaza. Okay, going into Gaza was more like the United States going into Iraq, all right? There was a pushback, but not so much of a pushback. Lebanon and Syria is a different case, especially Lebanon. So this would involve a land, air, and sea kind of situation. Obviously, also cyber, but it's going to be very hard for Israel, and that probably will mean that the Israelis will have to lean on the United States for intelligence and might even be naval support and air support. So as this starts to grind over time, the probability of US involvement starts to increase, even if Israel isn't directly hitting Iran. But this will probably escalate to decapitating the regime in Iran eventually, because that's where the money's flowing. That's where the coordination is coming from. So just keep that in mind. Now, you may not like what I'm saying. You may not agree with what I'm saying, but I'm taking the stance that where is this going seems to me going to what was written in the Bible. So with that said, please subscribe to all my channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube: Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. Please go to my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. All the links are in the description of this video. And donate too. So subscribe to all the channels and donate if you can. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee on my homepage at the very bottom. That way you help support my work. I have thousands of free videos out there. Another way to support my work is to be a paid Patreon member to my Patreon channel. That way it keeps my videos free, so you can learn and get a better idea about the events that are happening in your life. In addition, it's important to follow my protocol. I have a anti-aging protocol that I follow every day that will help to boost up your immune system, slow down the aging process, and give you more longevity, give you more vitality, so you can enjoy your life and push the barriers. And when you get older, you start to slow down. Well, there's ways to mitigate that. When you get older, you start having digestive problems. There's ways to mitigate that. When you get older, you start having cardiovascular disease. There's ways to mitigate that. When you get older, you start having sleep problems. There's ways to mitigate that. There's a common theme. If you take the idea that preventative medicine can help you mitigate the problems of living in a modern society, and just the average aging process, and you do some simple things like proper diet, exercise, memory type exercises, proper supplementation, proper sleep, proper stretching and balancing exercises, when you do this on a regular basis, you're actually going to help your body produce certain types of proteins, have a certain level of metabolism, and produce a higher level of ATP, an energy source, where you're going to actually help heal your body. And you do this on a regular basis, you're actually going to slow down the aging process, right? There's about 1,000 or 2,000 people that are living today that will probably live beyond 150 years old, right? Because they're doing this, all right? So, take my advice or don't take my advice, but I'm telling you right now, it works. So with that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And what type of products do you get? I have a lot of different products. Actually, you should be getting most of them, but not everybody can afford most of them. But certain things, there's a core, and that is neutralize pathogens, bring down inflammation, and bring down the reactive oxygen species, the free radicals. By doing that, that will move you in the right direction, and you add to it. One of the cores are taking a liquid structural nanosilver liquid, and you swish it in your mouth, you gargle with it, you take basically a teaspoon of liquid, and you just swish it in your mouth, gargle with it 20 seconds or so, and then swallow it. You do that every day. You take a teaspoon of it every day. If you're not feeling well, take a tablespoon of it every day. You can get it in a 14 ppm, a 35 ppm, or a 30 ppm. So this is max 14. You can get the max 35, or you can get the silver solution that's in 30 ppm. I have it at different price points because not everybody can afford the max 35. So what you do is you do that every day, neutralizes pathogens. What's important is that you take it, you fill that liquid in these applicators, and you can carry it with you to your work or whatever. It has a spritzer, it has a dropper, and it has a nasal spray. So you can spray surfaces with that liquid, and it'll neutralize pathogens. The dropper, you can drop it in your mouth. You can spray on the back of your throat with the sprayer, or you can use the nasal spray. But this is a great way to carry the liquid to work or on a trip or whatever. So get the applicator set. And I also have structural nanosilver gels. The structural nanosilver gel will neutralize pathogens on your skin, around your mouth, around your nose, around your ears, around your eyes. You can just put it around your eyes and nose and lightly coat your nostrils, and it'll stay active for about 5 hours. It'll neutralize pathogens, and you can use this also as a skincare product. This skincare product, you can just apply it on your skin at night and then exfoliate in the morning, and you'll notice that your skin is clearer and tighter, especially on the face. So people use it as a skincare product. If you get a cut, put it on the cut and it will heal the cut quicker. Or an abrasion, it'll heal the abrasion quicker, or a minor burn, it'll heal the minor burn quicker. So it's a dual purpose product. I also have it in a container form, so it's easy to carry in your bag. So you the same way to use this gel is the same way you use this tube gel. So, you know, either way, some people prefer to carry it in the bag. Some people have it in a tube form. So please go to my store and get this structural nano silver gel. And I also have structural nano silver soaps. The structural nano silver soaps help to neutralize pathogens. I have different varieties, so go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the silver soaps. And then finally, I have the structural nano silver toothpaste. Why is this important? This helps to neutralize pathogens because it has the structural nano silver. It has no fluoride in it. Fluoride is bad for you, so make sure you filter it out of your water. But this toothpaste has no fluoride in it. It has structural nano silver. It'll neutralize pathogens, reduce the plaque, whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, reduce the gum irritation, and when you have proper oral hygiene, you're reducing the chances of cardiovascular disease and you're reducing the chances of valvular disease. So this is very important to take. It's the best toothpaste that you're going to be able to buy. So go to my store and get a few tubes of this for your household. So with that, that is some of the structural nano silver products that I have. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, to look at all of the structural nano silver products that I have. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about on Live Now from Fox, this breaking news with Israel and Hezbollah and the rocket.
Breaking news headlines, top stories, and of course, live events to share with you this Sunday morning. But we do begin our newscast with the very latest. We are following breaking news as it relates to conflict in the Middle East, according to our content partners over at the Assist.
The Middle East is bracing for a potential flare-up in violence this morning after Israeli authorities said a rocket from Lebanon hit a soccer field in the Israeli-controlled Golan Heights. We're told 12 children and teens were killed in what the military says was the deadliest attack on civilians since October 7th. The strike raised fears of a broader regional war between Israel and Hezbollah, which denied a role in the attack. Well, overnight, the Israeli military said they hit a number of targets inside Lebanon, though the intensity of the strikes was similar to months of cross-border fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. Joining us live this morning for this breaking news alert is national security expert with the University of New Haven, Ken Gray. Ken, good morning to you. Always a pleasure speaking with you here on Live Now from Fox.
Good morning, Janae. Glad to be with you.
Glad to have you. So a lot to break down. If you could recap the recent events and put it into perspective for the viewers, please.
Sure. So Hezbollah launched a rocket that landed in the Golan Heights on a football field, a soccer field, that ended up killing 12 children there on the field. This attack was against primarily Druze City, and the Israelis have condemned this attack as having crossed the line and that they will pay a heavy price. Now, Israel and Hezbollah have been exchanging ordnance across the border throughout this time since October 7th. And consequently, this is give and take the whole time. But that being said, Israel has been looking for some reason to go ahead and launch their northern offensive against the Hezbollah. They have had to evacuate the northern part of Israel because of the constant barrage of rockets and drone attacks in that area. And they have promised to be able to retake that area and make it secure for Israelis to return to their homes. So this may be that event that allows Israel to expand their operations into the north there, into southern Lebanon, to finally deal with Hezbollah. Hezbollah so far has been exchanging round for round, attack for attack, and has plenty of rockets at its readiness to attack Israel, and is very comfortable with doing this small exchange. rocket for rocket, attack for attack. But Israel is talking about actually going in there and removing Hezbollah as a threat to Israel by ridding it from the southern part of Lebanon.
And thank you so much for that detailed recap. So as you can imagine, many questions this morning surrounding this latest strike. And the first one many people have is why? Why would a soccer field with children be attacked?
So I don't think it was necessarily a rocket aimed for that specific soccer field. That quite often rockets do not have any type of guidance systems, and so they are launched and they fall where they may fall. And so in this particular case, this launch was on the Golan Heights, but it was not necessarily specifically aimed for that soccer field. And so it's most of them fall in areas that are unoccupied. In this particular case, it landed on a soccer field where there were children playing on there.
The second looming question.
Hello, everyone. I just landed in Charlotte. We have a tremendous rally, unbelievable crowds. People can't even get in. It's really great to see, and whatever you can do to help us out with the fund.
The second looming question this morning is, will this be the straw that breaks the camel's back, per se, that does lead to a full-scale war? Obviously, we know fighting with Israel and Hezbollah has been going on for some time now. This isn't the first strike that's happened. The Israeli military has been very vocal, saying how they have actually intercepted some missiles from Hezbollah. But with this recent attack, and then it being compared to one of the deadliest attacks on Israel since October 7th, many are thinking this is going to be the incident that propels Israel into a full-scale war with Hezbollah.
Well, a month ago, the IDF started moving assets from the Gaza Strip to the north in preparation if they had to invade into southern Lebanon. So they may already have their forces ready to go in the event that they are ready to do that strike. They've been practicing doing a crossing of the border there into South Lebanon. So the IDF is ready to do so. The question is, do they have sufficient manpower to continue their operations there in the Gaza Strip and do an attack on southern Lebanon against Hezbollah? Hezbollah has been promised support by other members of the Axis of Resistance. Iran has been supplying weapons to Hezbollah, but there are also forces in both Syria and Iraq that have promised to go there and fight with Hezbollah against the Israelis should this occur. And so this could eventually erupt into that regional conflict we've been talking about since October 7th. This may finally be that introduction into the regional conflict. I think it really depends upon whether or not Israel decides that whether or not it has sufficient resources already activated to fight this two-front war. Now, things in the Gaza Strip have been heating up. There's been a lot of fighting going on in the Gaza Strip, all across the Gaza Strip. Israel seems to have come up with a new strategy. They have forces fighting in Rafah. They have forces that are trying to maintain the corridor, keep the corridor open, and they have been fighting in both Khan Yunis and up in Gaza City. Consequently, the IDF may not have sufficient forces to be able to continue to fight in the Gaza Strip at the level that they are doing so now and start a new front there on the northern border into South Lebanon.
Great point you're making, because if we look back in recent days, knowing that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was here in the U.S. Speaking to Congress, also speaking to President Biden and former President Trump, also VP Kamala Harris, we can't forget about that statement. If more aid was supplied quickly, then they could end the war more quickly. That was literally what he said. So great point you're making there. But as we look at manpower, Ken, I also want to take a look at the weapons and the ammunition that's being used. There are some talk circulating this morning that one side in the Middle East actually has new weapons that will now be used.
Yes, so Hezbollah apparently is claiming that they have electromagnetic weapons that are supplied by Iran. and that these particular weapons, they're not nuclear, so it's not an electromagnetic pulse, but it's something similar to that, but much more localized. That when it strikes an area, it will destroy the electronics within that area. So you could use this against something like a power station. You could use this against a radar complex and knock that system out. And the range is unknown. This has not been used on the battlefield yet. So they're making this claim of having this weapon. They have yet to use this weapon, so we don't know the effectiveness of that weapon. But nonetheless, they are claiming to have that. And if they introduce this new weapon onto the battlefield, this may be a game changer.
And as you're explaining that, I'm sure many of the viewers are concerned, could this weapon have any nuclear capabilities?
Yeah, no, so electromagnetic pulse is where you explode a nuclear weapon at a somewhat high altitude, and that it will create an electromagnetic pulse that will go out and knock out all electronic components within sight. And so you do it high enough to where the footprint is very large below it. This is not that kind of weapon. Instead, this is a much more localized weapon. The footprint is much smaller, and it's non-nuclear. But again, we have not seen it being used yet, so we don't really know the full effectiveness of it, or even if it is effective. But Hezbollah has been claiming that they have it. We will see if they bring it into play against the IDF.
Well, it just further shows the many conflicts going on in the Middle East. Many people were focused solely on Israel and Hamas, hoping for a ceasefire there. And then, of course, as we hone in and focus in on that front, that's when another organization pops up and tries to take advantage of that. So we definitely see that in full play on this Sunday morning. And always a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking out the time of your busy schedule to join us for this breaking news alert. Before we let you go, anything else you'd like to add on this breaking news front?
So the U.S. has attacked both the unmanned surface vessels and drones from the Houthis. They took out 6 drones, and that were still on the ground, and they took out 3 unmanned surface vessels that were out at sea. And so the Houthis continue to be a problem. They continue to be a problem for the Red Sea, and the U.S. is trying to take out their weapon systems.
And always a pleasure. Thank you so much again. And we'll definitely be keeping our eyes on that. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
And as we further discuss this breaking news alert this morning, getting this TAC War tweet in, or commonly now known as X, my producer Julian getting that in briefly, as we want to further break out this breaking news alert. The Prime Minister of Israel putting out Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's plane has landed in Israel. The Prime Minister is now en route to an area for security assessment and security cabinet discussion. So this just lets you know that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is fully aware of what's been happening out in the Middle East. And now he will be speaking to security cabinet and also other officials in that area to try to come up with some type of game plan. And what many are hoping in the area, they hope he comes up with a resolution.
All right. So what we're going to do is play BBC now, BBC News. But before we do that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver drops and lozenges. You take these, either during the allergy season or during the cold season. The moment you start feeling that there is a little bit of irritation in your throat, take a drop or the lozenges. You want to neutralize the pathogen and create the secretions. So by doing that, you're protecting that mucosal barrier, and you're reducing that hypersensitivity reaction if you have allergies, or if you're contracting something during the cold season. It helps to neutralize that pathogen. So please go to the store and get the honey and lemon structural nano silver drops in 100 count. I also have elderberry zinc in a 21 count. Those are the lozenges. The lozenges are a little bit bigger. And the blueberry drops in 100 count. So get a couple bags for your household. You're going to need it because there's still the allergy season. and we're going to transition in September, October to the cold season in the United States.
A deadly rocket attack start this hour in the Middle East. Israel says it has struck a series of Hezbollah targets deep inside Lebanon. According to the army, terrorist infrastructure was hit, including stockpiles of weapons. It follows a deadly rocket attack on the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights on Saturday, in which at least 12 people were killed. Most of the casualties were teenagers who were playing football in the town of Majd al-Shams. Israel has blamed Lebanon's Hezbollah movement. It has denied responsibility. That's Cross Live now. To Jerusalem and speak to our correspondent Barbara Platt-Usher. Welcome to you, Barbara. Tell us what's the latest on the Israeli strikes.
The Israelis carried out these strikes overnight in Lebanon, in the southern part of the country, where those cross-border conflicts has been happening over the past months with Hezbollah, but also further north in the Bekaa, according to the Air Force, and that is less common for the Israelis to strike there. So I think that was probably a message that they are preparing for a larger operation, and certainly that is what the Israeli officials are saying. The language that they're using is very tough. The defense minister has said we'll ensure that Hezbollah pays a heavy price for this loss. The finance minister is calling for the leader of Hezbollah to pay with his head. The foreign minister is saying an all-out war is approaching. So the rhetoric is pretty steep. There's going to be a security cabinet meeting later today when the prime minister returns from the United States to talk about what the next step will be. But I think everyone is expecting that the strikes that we saw overnight could be just the beginning of how the Israelis will respond.
And what more details do we have about the rocket attack on the Golan Heights, in which at least 12 people died?
Well, that rocket struck a football pitch where children and teenagers were playing football. Frankly, it could hardly have been worse. All of the casualties are young people. Many of the names have been released, as well as the ages. The youngest was 10, the oldest was 16. And there was one family that lost 4 children. So it's a real tragedy. The funerals have started last night, and they will continue later today. An eyewitness said that the sirens did go off when the rocket was in the air, but there wasn't enough time to get to the shelter. The children were running towards the shelter, but the Golan Heights is very close to Lebanon, and so the time before the warning came and the time that the rocket struck wasn't enough, and it struck between the children and the shelter. So it was a very, very tragic and strike, and the leadership of the community has responded with great anger and great anguish against those who Hezbollah, they didn't name Hezbollah, but they said against the terrorists who launched the strike, but also against the Israeli authorities, saying that we really don't have enough protection here because we're right next to the border with Lebanon. We need to have more protection. We've had strikes before. This is just the deadliest one.
Yeah, Hezbollah denying it was them, but Israel, the IDF, giving details about the rocket and the bomb, and saying it could only have been them.
That's right. Hezbollah had been carrying out some strikes earlier in the afternoon on Saturday, for which it claimed responsibility, but it very strongly denied that it had hit the town of Majd al-Shams. So when the extent of the damage became known, based on what it had said earlier, it was targeting an Israeli military base in the area. So it's possible that one of the rockets misfired. In fact, that seems probable. It's interesting to see the reaction in Lebanon, because this conflict has been taking place between Hezbollah and the Israelis, but other constituencies in Lebanon have responded, clearly because they're very alarmed that this is going to lead to a bigger conflict, if not an all-out war. The head of the Druze community in Lebanon, and I should say that the community that was hit in Israel, in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, which is where Majd al-Shams is located, was a community of Arab Druze. There are many Druze also in Lebanon, and the leader of that group did come out and condemn the killing of civilians, but he also said, look, Hezbollah statement said they weren't responsible. We have to remember that the Israelis tried to divide incite discord and fragment the region with their efforts. And so he was putting the emphasis on Israel rather than on Hezbollah, and calling for an immediate cessation of hostilities and a ceasefire. The Lebanese government also has made various statements. It usually stays out of this ongoing conflict, but it again condemned the killing of civilians, but said that there must be a cessation of hostilities. The foreign minister has spoken recently, and he said, look, I don't think Hezbollah would have targeted this community. It's a community of Arab Druze, as I mentioned, and we have a large number of them in the country. Perhaps it was a mistake either by Hezbollah or by Israel, but he clearly was worried that this would lead to a bigger conflict. And he said, we are talking with Hezbollah and asking them not to retaliate at this present time. So I think the expectation is of a strong Israeli strike, and clearly the Lebanese authorities are trying to convince Hezbollah not to respond to that.
Okay, Barbara, thank you. Well, we will be live in Beirut in just a few moments' time. First, though, let's remind ourselves of how events unfolded on Saturday. Mark Lowen has been monitoring developments and sent us this report.
Early evening in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, and the warning of an incoming threat about to become deadly and dangerous. A rocket struck a football field where children and teenagers were playing. Several were killed in the deadliest strike since the cross-border fire between Lebanon and Israel began last October. The anguish of loved ones at young lives cut short in a conflict that could be about to escalate sharply. A rocket barrage which lit up the sky was claimed by the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, but it denies firing the deadly strike onto the football field. That, the Israeli army spokesman says, is a lie.
This attack shows the true face of Hezbollah, a terrorist organization that targets and murders children playing soccer on a Saturday evening. We will act to restore full security on our northern border for all the citizens of the state of Israel.
And the question is how Israel's government will react. Benjamin Netanyahu is returning early from the US to chair his security cabinet, where he'll face calls to hit back hard. As the young injured were rushed to hospital, fear is growing that all-out war with Hezbollah, a proxy of Iran, could now be drawing closer. South, in Gaza, the other front of this war, Palestinians too were scrambling to save lives, this time after Israeli strikes killed dozens. Here too, it's children paying the price in a nightmare with no end. The missiles tore into a school housing displaced Gazans. Israel says it targeted a Hamas command and control center inside. But from the rubble came those simply seeking shelter. Mustafa says the blast threw him into the air and he fell to the ground. I didn't know where to run for fear, he says, so I fled inside the school thinking it was safe. But then I saw heads, hands, and feet. The spark from the 7th of October ignited Gaza and now Golan. The question here is, will it start an inferno? Mark Lowen, BBC News.
Before we go to Fox, this is the former State Department spokesperson talking about the incident. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video. It's important that you take collagen every day. The reason why is that it'll help with your bones, your skin, your joints, the ligaments, the tendons. There's lots of amino acid. I have an amino acid profile here. You can see that there's a lot of amino acids in this powder. So, you know, take the collagen. It's important for the health of the body, but it's part of the protocol of anti-aging and longevity. All right, you should take it every day. It's a powder. There's a scooper in here, but it also helps with the skin. And if you pay attention to the recipe, your skin will improve. You take the collagen every day, and you take it with vitamin C. All right, I have vitamin C and magnesium. And you drink 64 ounces of filtered water. All right, why? the collagen and the vitamin C and the water will cross-link and allow for the dermal layer to improve. And that way your skin will be more youthful looking. All right. Then you take the structural nanosilver gel that I was mentioning, and you put it on your skin at night, and then exfoliate in the morning. So you're putting it on topically, and what you'll notice is your skin will be tighter and clear topically. The collagen that you're taking in the morning with the vitamin C and the water, drink the 64 ounces of water throughout the day that's filtered. And this will cross-link and be able to improve the dermal layer. And then that's the base. Now, if you want to add to that and help with the basal layer, where your cells are rejuvenating because your cells flake off and they're rejuvenated by the basal layer. To improve that basal layer, you take C60, which is a very strong antioxidant. You take the C60. Now you can get it either in coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, or the avocado oil. You take a teaspoon of it a day, and the cells in your body, the reactive oxygen species will be neutralized, and the stress of the cell will go down, and the mitochondria in the cell, the health of the mitochondria will go up, and you'll have more ATP. So that basal layer in your skin is going to be healthier. And then you're also taking the resveratrol to get rid of senescent cells. When you take the resveratrol, the C60, the vitamin C with the collagen, and drink the filtered water, and then you're applying the silver gel on the skin at night and exfoliating in the morning, you'll notice in 30 days that your skin is much more improved. So why does this work? Well, the cross-linking between vitamin C and the collagen helps with the dermal layer. The topical helps to heal the skin at the top, and the C60 helps the basal layer because it's reducing reactive oxygen species, because when we're out in the sun, it's creating problems for the cell and it's creating reactive oxygen species. So you want to neutralize that. And the resveratrol works with the C60 to help with the mitochondrial health and to get rid of senescent cells. So when you combine this all together, you have better skin. There's other improvements that happen by just taking the C60. Your other cells in your body will improve too. Same thing with the resveratrol. The point here is it's about stacking. There's synergy when you combine these things. If someone said, oh, just take collagen and it'll just improve your skin, it might, but it takes a lot longer. But if you couple it with other things like C60 and resveratrol and this structural nanosilver gel and the vitamin C, and you're drinking filtered water, it's supercharging it. So, take my advice or don't take my advice, but it's about stacking, and it's about the synergy of that stack. All right. So please go to the store and get the collagen. I have 2 anti-aging skincare boxes. One is a beginner's version and the other is the advanced version. The beginner's version has the collagen, the vitamin C, and the gel. And in the advanced version, it has the basic version, beginner's version, plus the C60 and the resveratrol. So take my advice, and you're going to notice that your skin is improving. In addition, you're going to have more energy because you're going to have these different amino acids that you're going to be taking each day. And your joint health will be better, your bone health will be better, and your ligaments and your tendons will be better. And when you do some resistance training, a little bit of cardio, and some balancing exercises and stretching, you're gonna really improve. You're gonna be more flexible. You're gonna improve your skin. You're gonna improve your bone density. You're gonna improve your joint health. And by doing that, you're going to actually be moving around more, and you compare yourself to people that are not on the protocol, and you're going to notice that you can do things that they can't. You'll be able to bend more or lift stuff that your peer group may not be able to, especially when you get older. So take my advice. This stuff works. So please go to the store and get the collagen and how to stack it to get the max benefit.
Israel heading back against Hezbollah in Lebanon after the Iranian-backed terrorist group fired rockets at an Israeli playground, killing 12 children. It was the deadliest attack since October 7th. Former State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus joins us right now. Morgan, it's good to see you, albeit with this horrible news that we are still digesting. And we saw some of these response attacks from the Israelis overnight. That's just the beginning, probably, right?
Yes, certainly. This has been the type of thing that we have all been worried about and warning about for months, is what would happen in Israel's north. So we know in the south, that's where Hamas is, and they perpetrated the massacre on October 7th. But unfortunately in the north, you also have about 80,000 Israelis that have been displaced since October 7th. That's 10 months later, Guy. And that's principally because of the things like this that Hezbollah does. Now, Hezbollah, of course, is yet another Iranian proxy. It's another terror group that Iran funds, trains, and equips in the region. And unfortunately, the military weaponry, the rockets used to kill these children was, of course, made in Iran. So it all comes back to the Islamic Republic of Iran. And again, not only do you have them killing these children and wounding others, you have about 80,000 Israelis who are living in hotels. They're internally displaced within their own country, and they can't get home.
And they're displaced, and this type of attack is made easier, if I'm not mistaken, Morgan, because the international community isn't even enforcing against Hezbollah previous rules that were set out after the last time Hezbollah was acting this way.
So Israel and Hezbollah had a war in 2006, and actually at the United Nations, there was a Security Council resolution, and Hezbollah was supposed to completely disarm. Spoiler alert for our audience, that did not happen over the past 18 years. In fact, they have a very sophisticated ballistic missile arsenal. All of their military hardware is again supplied by Iran. We know that Iran has perfected their killer drones. They've given them to Russia to use against Ukrainian civilians. And so not only are they much more equipped from a military perspective, from military hardware, from ballistic missiles, their army is much bigger. They have the capability, Guy Benson, Hezbollah does, to overwhelm Iron Dome and Israeli Defense Forces. Now, why does all of this matter to the United States? Well, despite what President Biden said earlier this week, how he claimed our military wasn't at war, our U.S. Navy, Guy, has seen more action in the Red Sea than any other time since World War II. Our U.S. Navy is using something called TLAMs to stop the Houthis, yet another Iranian-backed terror group, from attacking them. They're using more TLAMs. They're using like a year's worth of TLAMs to defend U.S. Navy ships, merchant vessels from the United States and other Western countries. So when you look at what's actually going on in the Middle East, it is a chaotic period of time. It's even worse than chaos. It's all out war in the Middle East. We may not have called it that. Congress may not have called it that. But we are at war every single day. And if Lebanon, if Hezbollah, which is in Lebanon, and Israel get into a full war because of what Hezbollah did yesterday, it's almost impossible for the U.S. not to get dragged in this, because we're already dragged into it, right? We're already getting hit. We're already getting aimed at by the Houthis.
You know, Morgan, when we look at American politics, you have the Biden-Harris administration. They have enriched the Iranian regime, which has empowered them to engage in this type of terrorism support on multiple fronts against Israel. Then there's been quite a bit of daylight between Israel and the United States during the Gaza war started by Hamas. That's a tough combination, I think, to defend from an American perspective, given what Israel faces in terms of this threat.
Yeah, you can put a different face, name on it. You could change the gender, but ultimately, this is the policy towards the Middle East that Barack Obama and his administration started in their second term. This was in the first term of Obama. By the way, I was in the Middle East as his Treasury attaché in the first Obama term. They had continued the Bush administration sanctions. They were still tough on Iran. And the second term, that completely changed when they decided to go negotiate the JCPOA, the failed Iran nuclear deal that President Trump rightly withdrew from. And what we've seen is them just go back to those Obama policies that enrich Iran, that enrich in terror groups around the Middle East, and that get Americans killed. That's the most important point on all of this, guy. Americans are getting killed, shot at, and attacked by all of Iran's terror proxies throughout the entire region.
Morgan Ortegas, thanks for being with us this morning.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here.
Okay, so we're gonna go to DW in their coverage on the Golan Heights attack. Before we do that, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great products that I have worked with Rainbow Herbals on. We have created these 3 different bars. It's the Even Better Bar, which is an all-purpose skincare bar. You can apply it on your skin on a daily basis, and what you'll notice is that your skin will be smoother and shinier, softer. So you just apply it every day. In addition, if you have a muscle ache, you can rub it on the muscle that's hurting, and it'll relieve the pain. In addition, if you have a minor burn, an abrasion, or a cut, you can rub it on the cut, the abrasion or minor burn, and it will heal quicker. This is made from essential oils from the Himalayas. It's all natural, it's very high quality, very, very high quality. You'll be surprised on the utility of this bar. So get a couple of these bars for your household, and you'll be thankful because, you know, especially if you have a large family, you need to do first aid on kids and all this stuff. So it'll also ease the itching of a bug bite, like a mosquito bite or something like that. So please go to the store and get the Even Better Bar. Some people also apply it to eczema and psoriasis and get some relief from that. In addition, we've also created these deodorants. We have it in citrus and also in peppermint lavender tea tree. So this is also made from essential oils from the Himalayas. It has no aluminum in it and has no baking soda in it. Very high quality deodorant, and it also slowly helps to detoxify your body. So it's dual purpose. Go to the store and get a couple bars of the deodorant for your household. In addition, this is for males and females. So go to the store. I prefer the citrus. A lot of people prefer the peppermint version, but you know, it's up to you. But there's 2 different versions, very high quality deodorant. Go to the store and get a couple of the bars. With that said, let's do DW news.
Overnight attacks on Hezbollah targets in Lebanon, striking weapons caches and, quote, terrorist infrastructure. This comes just hours after 12 people were killed in a rocket attack on a sports field in the Israel-occupied Golan Heights. Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has visited the site of that attack in the Arab town of Mashal Shams. The military says those killed were children and teenagers. Israel is blaming the Hezbollah militant group, which is backed by Iran and based in Lebanon. The group has denied being involved. The United Nations is calling for maximum restraint on the border between Lebanon and Israel, the scene of repeated hostilities.
This is the moment the missile strikes a football pitch in the town of Mashal Shams, where young players were enjoying a match. Distraught locals rush to help. But the deaths of a dozen youngsters prompt shocked calls for retaliatory action.
Israel needs to respond within hours. They need to give an ultimatum, either pull back or Israel wipes out southern Lebanon and anyone who is threatening the existence of the state of Israel. Our people cannot just be sacrificed. There cannot be casualties without any response. There needs to be deterrence.
This is the deadliest attack along Israel's northern border since fighting between Israel and the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah escalated at the start of the Gaza war last October. But despite regular cross-border hostilities, Hezbollah denies targeting the football pitch in the Golan Heights. Israel's Prime Minister cut short a visit to the US.
I've been holding continuous security consultations, and I've decided to bring forward my return to Israel. I will convene the Security Cabinet as soon as I arrive. The State of Israel will not stay silent.
The UN has called for maximum restraint on the border between Israel and Lebanon, but this latest attack makes an already tense standoff more dangerous.
Joining me now is DW correspondent Tanya Kramer in Jerusalem. Hello, Tanya. What more do we know at this point?
Well, some of the victims have now been named here in the Israeli media. These are all younger children, teenagers between the ages of 10 and 20. These 12 were killed in this strike on Saturday night, and many more, we understand, are also seriously injured, still in hospital. The sirens, from what we understand from eyewitnesses, is that the sirens went off in this Jewish community on the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights very shortly, and then the impact was heard shortly after, so there was not much time for people to run for cover, and the Israeli army is still also looking into it. Why this missile was not intercepted now. Hezbollah has denied responsibility, but Israel has dismissed that. And in a first retaliation, the army said this morning in a statement that they have retaliated and targeted overnight a number of what they describe as Hezbollah targets, such as combat infrastructure deep inside Lebanon and also in southern Lebanon.
Right. So what's interesting here is some sort of blame game going on also. Talking about the initial attack, Israel says the attack was conducted by Hezbollah, but Hezbollah denies this. What evidence is there so far?
Well, that's right. I mean, Israel dismisses Hezbollah's claims that they didn't fire this rocket. Now, the military has said, the chief of staff, that it was a Falak missile with a 50-kilogram warhead that was launched towards the...
Let me just interject a little bit here, because I do a lot of watching of the news, and I have my own opinions on certain things and whatnot. We are in World War III. All right. People need to get out of this mindset that world wars, it's one event that starts it. No, it's a series of events that starts war. All right. And it builds up. And we're already in World War III. All right. Now, what was the inflection point? I don't know. There's probably lots of debates. I would even profess that World War I never ended, so, we can get into that kind of discussion too. But this quote, World War III, we're already in it. The question is how kinetic will it be? And how fast or how slow will it be? Will it be 12 minutes? Will it be 6 minutes? Will it be 5 years? When it really ramps up, but we're already in World War III. So, I just, I'm watching along, and, we have, Russia and Ukraine, and we have the potential conflict in Asia between the United States and China. Things may be ramping up with North Korea. You have complete social disruption in Africa. You have the Middle East that's starting to ramp up in more violence and disruption. So we're already in World War III. and I guess as human beings, we need to try to de-escalate it. But there's this the invisible hand, in a way, to quote Adam Smith. The invisible hand seems to be pushing us towards world destruction.
Occupied Golan Heights, and that is part of the arsenal of Hezbollah. They also trace the trajectory of this missile. Now the question is now what follows after that, and this has different layers. Of course, this was an attack on the Druze community there in the north, and basically there are also Druze in Lebanon, also Druze in Syria. This could have repercussions also on Hezbollah domestically, but also, of course, we've seen in the past month since the war on Gaza started, since October 7, these cross-border attacks with tensions going up and down. And most of the officials here have said, or analysts, there would be one of such incident where many civilians would be killed that could tip this balance, and there could be potential for broader conflict.
Right, tensions are indeed running high. Tell us more about how officials inside Israel are reacting to this.
Well, we've heard a lot of condemnation, obviously, from different political leaders. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is on his way back from Washington. He said, quote, that Hezbollah will pay a heavy price for this attack, one that has not been paid so far. That's what he said. He has convened a security cabinet as soon as he will be landing. This is necessary if it pertains to a decision on a potential escalation of the war. There needs to be a vote, so we will know more about that later. But this is certainly a very dangerous situation right now here in the region.
Right. PW correspondent Tanya Krima in Jerusalem. Thank you.
Now, it's important to put it in the context of what's happening in the United States with the election. Michigan is in play to either go for Harris or for Trump. Now, there is a large Muslim population in Michigan, especially in Dearborn and Hamtramck, but definitely in Dearborn, so in the Detroit area. That if Michigan doesn't go to Harris, the Democratic Party is going to lose potentially the White House. All right, Michigan is a major in play state. All right, if Harris sides with Israel on this, then she's going to lose the Muslim vote in Michigan, and this is part of the reason why the Democratic Party is placating to this Palestinian protesting that has been going on since October 7th of last year. So if she doesn't, if she aligns with Israel with this attack that just happened on the soccer field, all right, she's going to lose that Muslim vote. In addition, if she decides not to align herself with Netanyahu, with this attack by Hezbollah, then she's going to lose the independent or the middle of the road voter that might vote for her or might vote for Trump. Because that middle of the vote, that middle of the road voter that's on the fence, I think is more aligned with a more stabilized Middle East than aligning themselves, that have Western values, than aligning themselves with terrorists. Hezbollah is a terrorist group, all right? Same thing with that Hamas, but so which side is she going to pick? She's going to pick the terrorist side, and she's going to lose the middle of the road vote, or is she going to align with Netanyahu, and she's going to lose Michigan? So she's in a tough spot. Now, if you remember, when I've been covering this whole Middle East conflict since October 7th, I said that the tail and the logic of that ultra liberal is going to eat itself. That the ultra liberal will eat its own tail, and it's playing out that way. Harris can't have a really good foreign policy where it gives her a good path to winning the White House because of what just happened. Now, if you step back and you're a little bit spiritual, or you step back and you're a little bit religious, all right, you can easily see the intervention with the gunshot, the attempted assassination on Trump. There seems to be an intervention, a divine intervention. There seems to be some sort of divine hand that's moving events forward towards potentially biblical prophecy, definitely biblical borders. You know, there's the red heifer, and you know, dealing with the Dome of the Rock, and all these things that have to happen that will reset foreign national policy for centuries. All right, and this thing seems to be unraveling relatively quickly. And I've also talked about the infighting within the Jewish people that is problematic. But you're seeing that the ultra liberal is eating its tail. And now Harris is in a situation where she's going to try to straddle both. She's going to say, basically, Harris is going to try to do this. She condemns Hezbollah, but Israel needs to be, you know, have a more gentle and kinder machine gun hand, right? And Netanyahu's saying, you know, that he's gonna destroy the terrorists. She can't really side with Netanyahu because she's gonna lose Michigan if she does that. And she can't side with the terrorists because she's gonna lose most of that on the fence vote. And because most of those people that are on the fence have some level of Western values and religiosity. So she doesn't have a really good position. Trump's going to side with Netanyahu and just say, get it done quick. She's going to try to straddle that position, but she can't do very well with that because she's afraid to lose that Michigan vote. Michigan has to hold the line for Trump. You know, I said this back in the last election cycle. There are certain states that are in play that have to hold the line. Michigan is a key hold the line state for Trump. And these incidences that just happened with some sort of divine hand, unfortunately, many children died from this, and I've seen the pictures that are pretty gruesome. You know, with the body parts all over the place. Trump needs to win Michigan. It's super important. He has to hold the line. He has to hold the line. You know? But there's this kind of like divine hand that's happening that is giving us the opportunity in the United States to maybe reset and become more conservative and push back on wokeism and this ultra liberalism. That's my take on it. So before we go to Fox and end this session, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the ashwagandha root. This will help to control your blood glucose levels and bring down that inflammatory response in your vascular system. Extremely important. You want to bring down inflammation. That's part of the anti-aging protocol. When you bring down pro-inflammatory cytokines, you're helping your immune system. Very important. Also take it with turmeric. It's an antioxidant, but also brings down inflammation. That's part of a core of the anti-aging and longevity protocol. clarity factor, very important to get rid of that brain fog and allow you to focus. Take it once a day. Some people take it twice a day. It'll help you focus at work, in school, and also, even if you're retired, you need to get those neurons firing by keeping those dendritic connections enhanced and you forming new ones. You'll have better memory and you'll be able to think faster. When you get older, they start to recede. But there's neuroplasticity. You can regain those connections, assuming the neuron didn't die. But you can regain those connections. And the earlier you regain those connections and the more connections you build up, you're reversing that mental decline through just normal aging. So by taking this and training your mind by mindfulness or some sort of spirituality, some sort of meditation, staying away from negativity, being engaged by reading and writing and talking to people, you're going to actually be working your brain just like a muscle. And when you're working your brain just like a muscle, you're going to be able to connect those neurons better. And those neurons will be firing those neurotransmitters, and you'll have better memory and you'll be able to think faster. So take my advice. You can reverse degenerative aspects of aging by simple training your brain, exercising your brain by reading and writing and talking to people, but also proper supplementation. So go to my store and get the clarity factor. Also, with good mental acuity is making sure that you sleep on a regular basis. You need 3 cycles of REM sleep on average a night. A lot of people are not getting enough sleep and exercise, but enough sleep to get those 3 REM cycles. So what you want to do is get the good night formula. It has tryptophan and melatonin in it. It has other vitamins and minerals in this supplement, but it'll allow you to go into that REM cycle, those 3 cycles of REM per night, and you're going to be able to consolidate memory. You're going to detoxify your body because you need sleep to detoxify your body, especially the cerebral fluid. And when you do that, you're going to be well rested. You can consolidate memory, right? And you're detoxifying your body. You do that on a regular basis, and you're reducing the chances of dementia, and you're reducing the chances of neurodegeneration. So if you're having problems sleeping, you need to go to my store and get the good night formula and take it every night so you get a good sleep. Sleep is a very important feature on slowing down the aging process, boosting up your immune system, and improving your longevity profile. And I have a new product on my store, olive leaf extract. This helps with the immune system and the circulatory system. You take this every day, and you're going to be see, there's a theme that I'm talking about here. Boost up your immune system. When you have a good immune system, you will be able to heal your body, and you're going to be able to fight disease, and you're going to be able to push back and reduce the risk of cancers. So you need to boost up your immune system in proper supplementation, proper diet, proper exercise, filtered water, all these things that I'm talking about. Well, they all stack up to slow down the aging process. Preventative medicine is very important to practice with your body, so you don't have to depend on the Western medicine. All right, you don't want to be sick, do you? Most people would say no, they don't want to. So stop eating the processed foods, stop eating the fast food, stop drinking the pop, stay away from the sugary foods and the drinks, and proper exercise, proper supplementation, proper diet, and you are going to be able to heal your body. Most of the ailments that we have in the United States is self-induced. So go to my store and get the olive leaf extract to boost up your immune system and improve your circulatory system.
A Fox News alert, Israeli forces announcing their first retaliatory strikes on Hezbollah targets in Lebanon after rockets struck an Israeli playground, killing 12 children and teenagers in the deadliest attack since October 7th. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issuing a stark warning, vowing the terror group will pay a heavy price for the horrific attack. Here with more is CEO of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Mark Dubois. Mark, this is a national tragedy for the state of Israel, the deadliest day since October 7th, when children thought that they were safe enough to play soccer outside in the park, and now 12 families, possibly more, are in mourning. Before we get to next steps and what this could spark, how is Israel responding to this tragedy?
Well, it's a day of great grief, and obviously funerals for these kids and the Israeli people who are just furious. I mean, Hezbollah has fired 7,000 missiles and drones and rockets at Israel since October 8th. There have been 40 Israelis killed, including these children, and 60,000 Israelis have been driven from their homes in the north. So Israelis are furious, and they're calling on their government to respond.
Yeah. Well, Israel has already responded. They struck deep into Lebanon, which is the headline, but they hit Hezbollah military depots and infrastructure. Is it safe to say that Israel is not done responding?
So the Prime Minister is meeting with his cabinet today and considering options, but I think Israel is certainly not done responding. And the real question is Israel going to strike deep into Lebanon, deep into Beirut? Are they going to go after Hezbollah strongholds in Beirut, kill senior commanders? Are they going to go after Hezbollah's terror chief, Hassan Nasrallah, who's ultimately responsible for all this blood? And if they do so, are they prepared for what is going to be a massive war and a massive retaliation striking central Israel, including Tel Aviv, where I am today?
Yeah. Well, here's a quote from a U.S. official given to Axios. What happened today could be the trigger we have been worried about and tried to avoid for 10 months. Is Israel capable of fighting a two-front war?
Well, it's actually a seven-front war for Israel right now. For Lebanon, it's Syria, the West Bank, Gaza, the Houthis attacking them from Yemen, Iraqi Shiite militias from Iraq, and Iran itself, which attacked them directly on April 13th. So the problem is that the Biden-Harris administration's policies completely failed. I mean, the policy is to ask Israel to stand down. They put immense pressure on Israel. They're not providing Israel with the munitions that Israel needs to fight a seven-front war. And they followed a strategy of maximum concessions to Tehran.
This is an important point, because what I was saying months ago, the Biden administration, and now Harris is towing the same policy, is political expedience for the Democratic Party, for their administration. Political expedience isn't going to solve this problem. All-out war, no holds barred, is the only way that you're going to reach homeostasis in the Middle East. You can't peacefully do this. This just a full-out battle royale needs to happen between Israel and the terrorist groups, Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran, for this to stop. Now, whoever wins, wins. That's how war works. But tying Netanyahu's hands on being able to conduct the war because of some sort of political expedience on what's happening in the United States is the wrong policy. And so by them pushing this policy on the Israelis, by the Biden administration pushing this policy on the Israelis, it's getting worse in the Middle East. And it's now backed Harris in a corner where she's going to lose Michigan. And this is what I meant about the ultra liberal going to eat its own tail. Everything's playing out like I said it was going to play out.
It's really been a collapse in American power, deterrence, and Israel is now paying the steep price for this.
So yesterday, Israel delivered an updated hostage and ceasefire negotiation. Apparently, Netanyahu has added some new demands that include maintaining control of the Gaza-Egypt border to prevent the flow of weapons and militants. And that sounds like it could prolong things.
Well, Israel's been proposing numerous deals for months. Hamas has been rejecting them. And again, I mean, unfortunately, the Biden-Harris administration has been putting immense pressure on Israel to concede and not on Hamas and their Qatari sponsors in Doha. So this may prolong things. Israel needs to retain some sense of control over that essential crossing. Otherwise, after this war, Hamas will merely replenish its weapons, its terrorists, and Israel will face, God forbid, another October 7th all over again.
And finally, Mark, if Trump does become the next president, how would you like to see him handle this situation?
Well, if Trump becomes the next president, I think Trump needs to restore American power and deterrence. He needs to send a clear message to Tehran and to Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei that the United States will use not only instruments of American power against Iran, but will provide Israel with everything it needs to fight this war against Iran. I think that Trump sends a message that, there's Trump, as I think Israelis would say, speaks Arabic and Farsi, not in the literal sense, but in the notional sense that he understands this region and he understands that power and American deterrence is essential for preventing a regional war.
Mark, we are all with you in mourning the loss of these 12 children. Mark Dubowitz, Live for Us in Tel Aviv. Thank you, Mark.
I'm Steve Ducey. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews.
So that's my coverage for this video on what just transpired with Hezbollah and Israel. I'm recording this on July 28th. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the products that I've mentioned, and I have many others. Follow my advice about how to slow down the aging process and boost up your immune system. And please follow me on all my channels. All the links are in the description. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Thank you for listening, and peace be with you.